welcome back to our podcast. I'm the Disturbed Southern Belle.
And I'm the gentleman.
So we're continuing our series of some of the dark stories of old Hollywood. And we're going to be talking about a actress known as Miss Rita Hayworth. So, Margarita Carmen Cancino was born in Brooklyn on October 17th of 1918. And the world would come to worship her as the sex symbol Rita Hayworth. Star of movies like Gilda, You Were Never Lovelier, and Separate Tables. But as Barbara Leeming writes in her heartbreaking 1989 biography, which I'm going to quote several times during this because it has some very interesting things that were told to her. If this was happiness, what happened to her as the child Margarita would scar Hayworth forever. A magnificent dancer and entertainer, Hayworth lit up while performing. She learned steps faster than anyone I've ever known, her co-star Fred Astaire said, according to Leeming. Which is big praise because he was a huge, dancer star kind of, musical type guy there. So known for being a good dancer, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'd show her a routine before lunch. She'd be right back after lunch and have it down to perfection. She apparently figured it out in her mind while she was eating. This is a quote from him. Yet, once the work was done, co-star James Cagney remembered she'd simply go back to her chair and sit there and not communicate. A possible indication of the trauma that lay beneath her glitzy persona. She was married 5 times and would have affairs with Howard Hughes, Victor Mature, David Niven, and Kirk Douglas, which another big name.
Yeah.
Yet she found little solace in her relationships. Men go to bed with Gilda, but awaken with me, she said famously once. So Gilda was like one of her big
personalities.
Not personalities, but I guess roles. I'm trying to think of the correct word, but roles that she played. Now she was a really good dancer. I saw some clips of her with like Fred Astaire and different things, and she was a very good dancer. So she also said, I felt something deep within her I couldn't help. Loneliness, sadness, something that would pull me down. Douglas would recall after their tryst, according to Leeming, I had to get away. So she had always this feeling of sort of sadness inside her, no matter what. She just couldn't seem to get away from it, basically. And it came out a lot, which, I get. It happens. A lot of people deal with that. So, Hayworth could not escape her past or her problems, though she did try to run from them, basically.
Yeah.
You see what she was, according to second husband Orson Welles, all her life was pain. So, he basically said that, all of her entire life, she was just always in pain. Emotional pain, of course. Eduardo Cancino, Hayworth's Spanish-born father, had once been a smash on the vaudeville circuit. He performed with his sister as in a group called the Dancing Cansinos. His daughter, according to school principal, was one of the kindest, one of her school principals, I should say, was one of the kindest, most motherly girls I've ever known, but a poor student. She did the best she could, which wasn't very good. So, she was a very sweet person, though, in real life, according to everyone who spoke about her. But 12-year-old Hayworth could dance. According to Leeming, in 1931, a cash-strapped Cancino decided to revive the dancing casinos. Taking his daughter as his partner, Hayworth's dark brown hair was dyed black to make her appear older and more Latin. They began to perform as the Roch's floating casinos off the coast of the Southern California coastline. Leeming writes in her autobiography, she wrote, after Eduardo had drunk and gambled away their earnings, he would send her out to catch fish for dinner. If she returned empty-handed, he would punish her with his fists, always scrupulously careful, however, not to leave any marks for the audience to see. So, yeah, she had a pretty bad life. So, in other words, her dad would, all the money they would earn, he would pretty much just kind of gamble and drink it away. And then he would send her out like to catch fish and stuff for them to eat. And then, of course, she didn't catch anything. He'd beat the heck out of her. And then, of course, try to hide the bruises, so to speak. But that was not the end of the child's torment. According to Leeming, Hayworth would later tell Orson Welles that during this period her father sexually abused her. Which, not unheard of either, sadly.
No.
The family soon moved to Chula Vista, near the Mexican border, so that Hayworth and her father could dance for Hollywood big shots like Carl Elm Jr. and Joseph Schneck in the swank nightclubs of Tijuana. While her brothers played with the neighborhood kids, Leeming writes that Hayworth never joined their games, although she often sat on the front porch, staring silently ahead or seeming to watch as they played. So kind of sad too. She was kind of left out, and Neighbor Loretta Parkin told Leeming that she and the other kids would often peek into the casino's living room window to catch a glimpse of the mysterious Margarita practicing with her father. He'd scream and holler at her, "Don't do that! Don't be so stupid," Parkin recalled. He was kind of a small man, like a little banty rooster. I never heard her answer back at him, not ever. She would simply do the routine again until he was satisfied. So he was one of those pushing type fathers, like, gotta be perfect, blah, blah, blah. Parkin felt awful for the shy little girl. For Rita, there was no life, no school, no friends, no girlfriends. She said just sitting, 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 till it was time to go to Tijuana. In 1937, Hayworth married her first husband, Eddie Judson, a shady former car salesman who was twice her age. I married him for love, but he married me for an investment, she later said. According to Leeming, for 5 years he treated me as if I had no mind or soul of my own. Intent on making Hayworth a star, Judson forced his painfully shy wife to participate in endless rounds of publicity-generating promotions, which eventually inspired a nickname, the most cooperative girl in Hollywood. To make his wife look less Latin, Judson demanded that she go through painful electrolysis treatments to move back her hairline and dyed her long hair red, auburn. So she had like this sort of widow's peak at one point, like a lot of Latin women do. This is the way their hairline is, and it's fine. But he made her go through these like electrolysis treatments, which back then I've heard they were pretty bad. They were not like they are today. They were actually very painful, as you can imagine. And to make her hairline better, go back further, make it more straight. And then also he dyed her hair red, which her father had dyed it black to make her look more Latin. He wanted her to look less Latin. Stupid, I know, but so. That's the way it was. So according to Leeming, Judson also encouraged Hayworth to sleep with influential men. So this is her husband that's encouraging her to do this. Her first husband was a pimp, Leeming said. Literally a pimp, Wells told Leeming in disgust. One day Judson planned for his wife to go on a yacht and sleep with crude Columbia studio boss Harry Cohn, and who had just signed her. Hayworth refused to have sex with Cohn, setting up a feud that would consume the movie mogul and his biggest star for the next 2 decades. To get revenge, Cohn would treat Hayworth with shocking disrespect, using the bathroom in front of her and belittling her constantly, at least according to If It Was Happiness star. All Harry Cohn wanted to do was get even, because he'd never had any sexual encounter of any kind with Rita, which annoyed the hell out of him, her friend Bob Schiffer told Leeming. The author describes how the mogul attempted to exact his revenge on the set of the 1948 movie The Lives of Harmon. A maid outside of Hayworth's dressing room reported exactly who went in and out, and a bug inside was picked up Rita's private conversation. So somebody put a bug in her room, basically. Right. Rita had known about the bug for some time, but she also knew that if she tore it out, another one would soon take its place. So basically, she's saying, if I throw it away, somebody's going to replace it. So accordingly, she whispered intimate details that she would not want Cohn to know. But one thing she did not attempt to conceal from Cohn was her contempt for him and his toadies. She hated them all, so she would tell them stuff that they wanted to hear, but she'd also tell them how much she hated him. So I actually kind of find that funny.
It is very
funny. So she didn't pull any punches with Cohn as to what she thought of him. So Cohn represented all the tyrannical men in Hayworth's life. He was much more than a mere symbol. The two would battle over contracts, script approval, and Hayworth's love life until Pat Joey, her final film for Columbia in 1957. As she got older, she got a little more guts, her friend Roz Rogers told Leeming. Underneath, she grew, she got stronger and stronger and was able to survive, which I guess you'd have to have a thick skin to be in, Hollywood, so to speak.
Probably, yeah.
Strong, you'd have to have some strength to you, or they'd eat you alive. In 1942, Hayworth met the man she would call the greatest love of my life. Wonderkind director Orson Welles had been shooting in Brazil when he came across Hayworth's iconic pinup spread in the August 17th edition of Life magazine. I saw that fabulous still in Life magazine, he told Leeming, when she's on her knees in bed, and that's when I decided, when I come back, that's what I'm going to do. Once back in Hollywood, he found the real Hayworth was miles away from her femme fatale persona. love goddess image, of course. The whole wicked Gilda figure was absolutely false. It was a total impersonation, like Lon Chaney or something, he said. To draw the sweet, timid Hayworth out, Wells would pretend to read her mind, so she had to correct him. Hayworth relished having fun with Wells's friends from the Mercury Theater, as she was finally able to connect with people her own age. The exuberant couple married on September 7th, 1943 in Santa Monica during Hayworth's lunch break from shooting the film Covergirl, with Joseph Cotton serving as best man. I never saw a happier, more tickled, more delighted, adorable couple in the world, Secretary Shifra Haran told Lemming. Still, duty called, and when asked by a reporter whether they were going on a honeymoon, Hayworth replied, per Lemming's report, I got to get back to the studio. So they pretty much just went on her lunch break, got married, and then she just went right back to work.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny.
It is hilarious.
It is sort of funny. So the newlyweds settled in Brentwood Mansion, where Wells built a roofless solarium so Hayworth could sunbathe naked. Together, they plotted their escape from Hollywood, attempting to launch Wells's political career, which, according to Lemming, was urged on by none other than President Roosevelt. She hated being a movie star, Wells lamented. She never got a moment's pleasure out of being a famous movie star. It gave her nothing. Hayward worked hard to please the brilliant Wells, reading the books he read and supporting the progressive causes he supported. I really wanted to be everything Orson wanted of me, she later told movie star June Allison per Lemming. She reflected what the men wanted, Bob Schiffer concurred. Unfortunately, that's the way they thought it should be. Or that's the way she thought it should be, rather. So she basically thought she had to be whatever they wanted her to be, with whoever she was with at the time.
Unfortunately, I feel like that was probably a common sentiment, especially between women of that era.
Probably so. And still some women today. But anyway, so the self-destructive, egocentric Wells soon began to leave Hayworth, then pregnant with their daughter Rebecca, to canoodle with their heiress Gloria Vanderbilt in a corridor at 21 in New York City. Something happened when our eyes met. Gloria Vanderbilt, who had been there with her own husband at the time, later recalled, under the table he kept touching my knee, and soon we were holding hands. So, and then... Yeah. According to Lemming, Wells began to frequent sex workers and launched into a passionate affair with Judy Garland. He also became increasingly disturbed by Hayworth's neediness, drinking, and explosive temper. Which it might be because you're leaving her alone all the time and cheating on her, maybe.
Quite possibly.
But who knows, Wells told Lemming how Hayworth flew into a rage after discovering that her picture had been affixed to the nuclear test bomb named Gilda, detonated at Bikini Atoll. Rita almost went insane. She was so angry, he said. She was shocked by it. She wanted to go to Washington to hold a press conference, but Harry Cohn wouldn't let her because it would be unpatriotic. It was Hayworth who would file for divorce. Shortly after, actress Shelley Winters remembered going to a Christmas party with Hayworth, which Lemming describes. At the crowded party, Winters lost track of Rita. Later, when she asked actress Ava Gardner if she had seen her, Ava pointed to a bed where Rita lay fast asleep beneath a pile of fur coats. She had been so lonely and bored that she dozed off, and Ava Gardner had draped the fur coats over her. When Shelley Winters came close to Rita to make sure she was all right, she could see that her hair and face were a mess. She'd been weeping. So, yeah, she was having a hard time of it.
Sounds like.
Although they would briefly reconcile during the film of The Lady from Shanghai, where Wells would cut off his wife's trademark hair and dye it blonde, the marriage was over by 1948. Wells claimed that he loved Hayworth, however, until the night he died. Lemming writes, Rita told him, the only happiness I've ever had in my life has been with you. Wells was overwhelmed with guilt about how badly he had treated her, and with sadness at the perspective that this gave him on her life. If this was happiness, he would later say of their marriage, imagine what the rest of her life had been. So, yeah, if that had been happiness, in other words, it hadn't been that great, in other words, you get what I'm saying. So, in 1948, Hayworth went on a European vacation, dressed in a Pierre Balmain gown inspired by a costume worn by Francoise de Maspon, mistress of King Louis XIV. She appeared at a charity ball at the Eiffel Tower. There she nervously gave an endearing speech in French on behalf of poor children, enthralling a royal in the audience, the legendary Lothario, Prince Allah Khan. So Prince Allah Khan, whom Lemming describes as Casanova, gentleman jockey, auto racer, hunter, pilot, horse breeder, soldier, and Muslim religious leader, was the son of Aga Khan, the Imam of millions of Asian and African Islami Muslims. Although he was married, Kahn soon convinced famous hostess Elsa Maxwell to introduce him to Hayworth. He pursued the reluctant star across the French Riviera, filling her suites with flowers and buzzing her hotels in his private plane. According to Leeming, he even allegedly sent a fortune teller to the superstitious Hayworth to tell her to be with him. So, yeah, he's kind of going all out here. Eventually, Hayworth was persuaded. The charming prince was away out of Hollywood and was also happened to be excellent in bed. So, yeah, come on.
Most important thing
exactly.
there.
That is the most important thing if you're going to get married. According to Leeming, Ella practiced an Eastern art of love, which allowed him to exercise indefinite control in the bedroom. Whatever that means. Their affair would scandalize the staid post-war West, leading to Hayworth's condemnation by everyone from the American Federation of Women's Clubs to the Vatican. After both had obtained divorces, a wedding was planned for May 27, 1949. Since French law demanded marriages take place in public, their wedding party in the Villeras town hall consisted of 7 princes, 4 princesses, a maharaja, and an emir. Along with 30 journalists, Leeming writes, thousands of French citizens lined the streets eager to catch a glimpse of the new princess. At the elaborate reception that followed at the prince's magnificent chateau overlooking the Mediterranean, Hayworth, secretly pregnant with their daughter Yasmin, didn't seem happy, in the words of gossip columnist Luella Parson. Per Leeming, she had found a similarly glum Aga Khan whose overindulgence had resulted in upset stomach. Too much caviar, Rita, he said, too much caviar. Once again, Hayworth attempted to mold herself to suit her man. She was tutored in French, etiquette, royal protocol, and per Leeming the mysteries of being a princess. Whatever that means as well,
No idea, honestly.
But, yeah, there you go. But the sociable and womanizing prince, before he was officially divorced from Hayworth, he would woo Joan Fontaine, Yvonne de Carlo, and Jean Tierney. And he had not changed at all. Hayworth was soon his arm candy at an exhausting round of society events. During one of the parties that they were at, Hayworth fainted when autograph seekers crushed around her. She collapsed near Maurice Chaufleur, whose tuxedo was splashed by an overturned bottle of champagne. Leeming writes, my new suit is ruined. The man was heard to cry as others more gallantly than he rushed to revive the actress with a bit of brandy. So, yeah, I've got to say, if she literally did just pass out, I don't think that'd be the first thing I'd be worried about, was I got splashed by some freaking champagne or something. I'd be kind of thinking, is she even okay or not? But whatever. Targeted by jewel thieves, would-be kidnappers, and paparazzi, Hayworth began to lock herself in her room during Kahn's endless high society house parties, drinking and dancing alone to her Spanish record collection. She also became erratic and irrational during the couple's frequent fights. Leeming writes, when she declared that she was sick of life with Ollie and wanted to go back to America, the prince calmly accused her of having been drinking. Infuriated, she began throwing things at him. Picture frames, books, and then having dramatically summoned one of the household staff to fetch her a glass of orange juice, she flung the contents in his face. So she even tells him to bring her a glass of orange juice so she could throw it in his face. My goodness.
That is hilarious.
It is kind of, isn't it? Terrified the prince would take custody of Princess Yasmin in March 1951, Hayworth spirited her daughters from Europe back to New York. When asked by a journalist what she was going to do in America, Hayworth replied, the first thing I'm going to do is have a hot dog. Because, there you go. After Rita was on a downward path. She was on a steep toboggan slide. Wells told me. A disastrous marriage to big band singer Dick Haymes, whose Hollywood nickname was Mr. Evil. So I tell you, maybe something, perhaps, right? Led to a brutal custody battle with the prince. Lawsuits with Columbia and temporary loss of custody of her daughters to the state. Hayworth finally got the courage to leave Haymes after he hit her at the Coconut Grove during a night of drinking, leaving her with a black eye. I could hardly believe I could be a princess one minute and then treated like that the next, she told June Allison. By the early 1960s, Hayworth began to display symptoms of early onset Alzheimer's. Unfortunately, her confusion and fading memory were misdiagnosed by her friends and family as severe alcoholism. On the set of The Wrath of God in 1972, her ability to memorize lines had completely evaporated. I take her into her room and I teach her one line, makeup artist Lynn Del Cal told Leeming. Then she'd go out and they'd shoot the one line and then we'd go back into the room and do another line. So that's
sad.
Her children grown, a lonely Hayworth would let her dogs out in the middle of the night in Beverly Hills, hoping to talk to neighbors. Often neighbor Glenn Ford, her co-star Gilda, would come at night to keep a confused Hayworth company. She often became violent, once throwing a drink and dancer Adele Astaire's face in front of Adele's brother Fred. Another night, she invited fellow movie star Ann Miller and a friend to dinner, only to chase them away with a butcher's knife, screaming, "How dare you invade my private property? I don't see autograph seekers." The next day, she called me, Miller told Learning, and said, "Why didn't you come for dinner?" So that is sad. She's really, kind of...
She's just gone at this point.
Yeah, she's really drifting in and out. So she has Alzheimer's, yeah. It's a very sad disease to watch. So Hayworth was finally diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 1980. When she died in 1987, she found comfort and acceptance not in a man, but in her daughter, Princess Jasmine, who moved her to an adjoining apartment in New York. There, Hayworth sat in an armchair, mutely staring into space, lovingly cared for by her daughter. A few years previously, Hayworth had been in Brazil for an appearance when she disappeared, leaving her handlers frantic. All of a sudden, we got a call, her agent, Bud Moss, had recalled. About a mile up the road on the beach, there were a group of kids flying these beautiful kites, and there was Rita just sitting there on the beach with these little kids flying kites with them. So they found her straight off the beach.
Yeah.
So, but she had a really sad life. I mean, she just, I don't know. They wanted her to be too Latin. They wanted her not to be Latin. They wanted her to, she did not have a good love life either, as you can hear.
No.
I mean, it's just, it is what it is. I mean, but a lot of them don't. It's sad. It's bad. And if her father, the way he was, she didn't have a good life growing up. That's the way that goes as well, unfortunately. We hope you enjoyed that segment. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. And don't forget to stay disturbed.